Hi, I'm Gail Hunt from Automate UK. I'm here today at Fairfields Farm, set in the beautiful British countryside. In today's episode, we're going to talk about this family-run enterprise and how they've become the success they are today. I'm here today at Fairfields Farm with the owners, Robert and Laura Strathern, and we're going to be talking to them about their business, how it started in this beautiful Essex countryside. Good morning.
Good morning.
First of all, I wanted to talk to you about how the farm started back in the day.
So we have, as a family, we've also always farmed potatoes in the area. And in 2005-06, we started researching the possibility of adding some value to the potato crop. Okay. So we decided to go down the route of hand-cut crisps. We had, as a family, grown spuds for 3 generations, so we knew we had that bit cracked reasonably well. But we certainly had no idea how to cook crisps at all. So we started out by using a local packer who packed the crisps for us. We took our potatoes to their factory. They made a very small amount of crisps. We brought them home back to the farm, and then it was Laura's job to put them in the van and drive around the local pubs and farm shops and try and find a customer or two.
Which was hard work.
Yes.
Which was very hard work.
Literally cold calling as you
cold
were.
calling. I'd either sit in the office and call the potential customers, or get in the van and drive around with the crisps in the back and just knock on the door. Used to come home, sometimes in tears, because it's quite disheartening, because obviously they had, whoever they were stocking at the time, didn't want to know, and we were new. Or some customers took us on and they still stock us now. So it was hard work, and I had no experience before of cold calling, sales, marketing, nothing. So we've learned as the business has grown.
And back then, was that so people weren't exactly so sort of switched on to different styles of crisps? There's just the big brands and whatever.
Yeah, there was sort of one main independent crisp company, wasn't there, in the independent outlets at the time. So and they were well established, so we were up against them. So But
we were the first ones in East Anglia, I suppose. So we certainly used the fact that we were local as our sort of point of difference. There wasn't a crisp producer in East Anglia, and we were growing our own potatoes, and people were quite interested in local food, and that was kind of at the early stages of local being quite prominent.
Less food miles.
Okay. So, and then it just grew from there.
So at some point you went, oh, hang on a minute, we need to do this. We can't keep having this contract packer to be making them for us. So when was that?
So that was around, we started researching it 2010.
Okay.
We then looked to aim to get the factory built by 2012. So we did a number of things. We went to travel across America and Europe looking for factories, how it was done, because there weren't many people in the UK that wanted to invite us into their factory and say, look, this is how you make crisps, by the way. So we travelled to...
Yes, absolutely.
Exactly.
We had to go to America.
So we had a little holiday to America, and we looked at factories there, and we ended up buying a factory that was closing down in Belgium, imported the kit over, and then we bought some other bits of equipment locally as well. And started to build up a line. We built a purpose-built factory. And by this time, we'd carved out enough business that we were confident that we had a place in the market. We thought this is worth doing. But certainly making that investment in the factory made it real for the business. So we were fully invested. We had a factory, had the potatoes.
And fully in control of...
And fully in control, yes.
From the beginning to the end.
Yes.
And that's what we wanted from day one, wasn't it, Rick?
So you're not relying on anyone else.
No.
So at the beginning, crisp cooking, was that smooth transition?
No, not at all. So we were quite fortunate in some ways. We had a retired crisp manufacturer who helped and guided us through the early stages.
Okay.
And he spent the first year with us, and he trained initially myself and then all of our team. I still have a great team, and the original guys that learned how to run the cookers are still with us now.
Brilliant.
And yeah, we had to sort of learn the art of cooking and seasoning and bagging. But I think the best way to learn it is always to start almost from ground zero, learn the hard way, all the mistakes, and you tend to remember them then.
Yeah. Were there some shockers? Were there some?
We had just, if it didn't work, we just had to throw it away, and that's and that's what you do.
Yeah.
And we were so particular about making sure that the quality was correct.
The quality
and good.
had to be 100%.
So yeah, we just wasted product until we got it right, and yeah.
But that's what it's about.
Yeah.
I'd had 2 children by then.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, we had Angus in 2009 and then Imogen in 2011. So I sort of worked in between, didn't I? But yeah, while I was pregnant, I was still loading lorries.
Yes, of course you were.
Packing boxes and everything else, and yeah, just trying to make it work. And then, you know, as we've gone on, the business has grown, and we've been able to, you know.
And your spread is way further now than East Anglia.
Oh,
as a national brand.
Yeah.
So as well as developing the crisp business, you've also been doing lots of different things in terms of farming and sustainable farming. So what sort of changes have you made on the farm itself?
Yeah, so the farm's changed quite a lot over the years. We were farming, I suppose, in a conventional way with a plough sort of system, inverting the soil over, and using mostly synthetic fertilisers for nutrition of the crops.
Right.
But over the last, since 2016, we built an anaerobic digester on the farm. So we feed that with maize and rye crop, which creates gas, and that gas runs a generator which generates electricity. And also the byproduct of that renewable electricity generation is digestate, which is what we now use for fertiliser.
Oh, so no synthetic at all now on the farm?
We use a small amount, but most of the fertiliser comes from the digestate, which is very high in N, P and K, the key sort of nutrients we need to grow crops, in particular potatoes. Mm-hmm. So that has that's been quite a big change in how we farm and how we look after the land. But also in the sort of path to, in the last 4 or 5 years, we've been working towards becoming carbon neutral. And to do that, we have been growing a lot of green cover crops on the land. So in the winter, when the land has no crop in it because it's going to be potatoes in the spring, we put a winter cover crop in, which captures carbon, holds on to some of the nutrients, and then that gets incorporated in, and that is then good nutrients for the following crop of potatoes or maize in the spring. So we've changed how we cultivate the soil, how we look after it, how we treat it, and the fertilisers we use. And it's been quite an education for the farm and the farm team.
Yeah. And
we were quite sceptical at the start, but yes, it has really changed how we operate for the better.
And the potatoes, as good as ever?
Yeah, yeah. Certainly, the potato crop is our sort of main event. That's the crop we grow the most of.
Yeah.
It's a very intensive crop in terms of what it needs: people, resource, machines. But yeah, that's the crop we enjoy growing, and we love it. Well, I do.
He loves them. Probably more than me.
So I hear back in the day sometimes you were, there are a few anecdotal things about, were you using strimmers as some of your farm gear?
Yeah. God. So yeah, when we first started growing potatoes, when they're ready to harvest, you have to top them with a flail topper to take the leaves off, and then the machine harvests them. But we didn't have a topper and we couldn't afford a topper. So we used a garden strimmer.
Lovely.
To go in front, which was quite labour intensive.
Was that a slow process?
It was quite a slow process.
I'm thinking of using a strimmer where that thing breaks all the time.
Yeah, the wire breaks all the time. Yeah, that's
So a bit of that.
A bit of that. Yeah.
And we used to pack the potatoes by hand. We used to supply the local dairy in Colchester. So obviously Robert would harvest them, and then I would pack them by hand, weigh them, pack them into bags, and then send them off to the co-op, the dairy. Yeah.
Yeah, see? So,
Yeah, so-
you miss those days, I can tell.
Absolutely.
It was good fun.
It was good fun. Yeah, so it was a part of the journey.
Yeah, yeah. And so it's been so from the start to now, big changes. Have you added to the farm, or is it still the same acreage? Or
Yeah, so we've added to the farm. I suppose when we first started out and when we were stripping the potatoes, we were growing 2 acres of potatoes.
I've got this picture in my head now.
And we now grow about 1,000 acres of spuds.
Right.
And we grow it on our own land, the home farms, but also we rent quite a lot of land from neighbouring farmers. So we have about 14 or 15 landlords that we work with and have good relationships with to have land rented from them. We also contract farm other people's farms if a farmer's perhaps retired or doesn't want to farm anymore. And more recently, we bought the neighbouring farm, which is this farm here where we've recently moved to and live here now. So yes, over the years we've tried to add to the acreage that we've got accessible to farm all the different crops we grow.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you and listening to how your brand has developed, how your farm has developed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, lovely to speak to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
From small beginnings, Fairfields Farm Crisps has come a long way and become a beloved brand across the nation. But this is just the beginning. Stay tuned as we delve into the challenges that have faced Fairfields Farm.